What if I told you that everything you're going through right now, your struggles, your questions, your doubts, might actually be part of a larger journey? A journey that Carl Jung, one of history's greatest psychologists, believed was the real purpose of human life. He called this journey individuation, and today we're going to explore what this fascinating idea means for each of us. Let's start with Jung's own words. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Sounds simple, right? But Jung discovered that becoming who you truly are is one of the most challenging and rewarding journeys a person can take. First, let's clear up what individuation isn't. It's not about becoming perfect. It's not about becoming better than others. And it's definitely not about getting rid of your problems. Instead, Jung saw individuation as the process of becoming whole, including both your light and your shadow sides. Jung discovered this concept through years of working with patients and studying his own inner life. Born in 1875 in Switzerland, Jung went through his own profound psychological crisis after breaking with his mentor, Sigmund Freud. During this time, he began exploring his own unconscious through dreams, artwork, and active imagination. What he found changed psychology forever. Here's what Jung observed. Most of us start life trying to be what others want us to be. We develop what he called a persona. Think of it as the mask we wear to fit into society. You might be the good student, the responsible parent, or the successful professional. There's nothing wrong with these roles, but they're not the whole story of who you are. Jung found that around midlife, many people start feeling a deep dissatisfaction. Even if they've done everything right, gotten the job, the relationship, the achievements, something feels missing. This isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's actually the beginning of individuation. Let's break down the key parts of individuation that Jung identified. First, there's meeting your shadow. Jung discovered that we all have parts of ourselves we don't want to look at. Our selfish thoughts, our angry feelings, our secret desires. We push these into what he called the shadow. But here's the fascinating part. Jung found that the shadow also contains positive qualities we've rejected or never developed. Jung observed that people who never face their shadow often project it onto others. They see their own rejected qualities in people they strongly dislike. Have you ever met someone who really bothered you but you couldn't explain why? Jung would say they might be showing you your own shadow. The next part involves understanding what Jung called the anima in men or animus in women, the opposite gender aspects of our personality. Jung noticed that men have feminine qualities and women have masculine qualities, but we often suppress these because of social expectations. Individuation means embracing these qualities rather than rejecting them. Then there's what Jung called the self, not your everyday self, but something bigger. Think of your conscious ego as a satellite orbiting around a much larger planet, the self. Jung found that the self shows up in dreams as important figures like kings, queens, wise teachers, or even divine beings. It represents your full potential, including parts you haven't discovered yet. Jung made a fascinating discovery about how this process works. He found that the unconscious mind communicates with us through symbols, especially in dreams. He noticed that certain symbols, like the circle, the tree, or the wise old person, appear across all cultures and seem to have universal meanings. He called these archetypes. Here's something practical Jung observed. Individuation often follows a pattern. It usually starts with a crisis or feeling of emptiness. This isn't a mistake. It's actually the psyche's way of pushing us toward growth. Many of Jung's patients found that their depression or anxiety was actually the beginning of their individuation journey. Jung documented how this process tends to unfold. First comes the call, often through a crisis, dream, or deep dissatisfaction with life. Next, people typically face their shadow, which can be uncomfortable but liberating. Then they begin discovering rejected or undeveloped parts of themselves. Finally, they start experiencing a new sense of wholeness and meaning. But Jung emphasized something important. Individuation isn't a straight line, it's more like a spiral, revisiting similar themes at deeper levels. He noticed that people often face the same issues repeatedly, but each time with greater understanding. Jung found that individuation has practical effects. People who engage in this process often become more accepting of themselves and others, better able to handle life's contradictions, more creative and authentic, more capable of meaningful relationships, more connected to a sense of purpose. Here's a crucial point Jung made. Individuation doesn't mean becoming completely independent or isolated. In fact, he found that people who truly individuate often become more genuinely connected to others. They're better able to form real relationships because they're no longer trying to be something they're not. Jung observed that individuation also changes how people relate to their problems. Instead of seeing difficulties as things to eliminate, they start seeing them as parts of their growth. A fear of public speaking might reveal a voice wanting to be heard. A tendency to overwork might show a need for recognition. One of Jung's most important discoveries was that individuation isn't just personal. It has a collective dimension. He found that as individuals become more whole, they naturally contribute more to society. Not by trying to change others, but by being more fully themselves. Jung noticed that different cultures have different attitudes toward individuation. Traditional societies often support it through initiation rites and spiritual practices. Modern society, he observed, tends to focus more on external achievement, making individuation more challenging but perhaps even more necessary. Here's something practical Jung emphasized. Individuation requires attention to our inner life. He found that practices like recording and reflecting on dreams, creative expression through art or writing, active imagination, dialoguing with inner figures, paying attention to synchronicities or meaningful coincidences. But Jung also warned about potential pitfalls. He saw people become inflated with spiritual experiences or get lost in their inner worlds. He emphasized that true individuation involves staying grounded in everyday life while exploring the depths of the psyche. One of Jung's most profound insights was that individuation isn't something we achieve once and for all. He found it to be a lifelong process. Even in his 80s, Jung was still discovering new aspects of himself and integrating them into his personality. So, what does all this mean for us today? Jung's research suggests that many of our current struggles, from mental health issues to the search for meaning, might be connected to the individuation process. When we understand this, we can work with these challenges rather than just trying to overcome them. Jung's work shows us that what looks like a breakdown might actually be a breakthrough. That feeling lost might be the beginning of finding yourself, that your flaws might be pointing toward your wholeness. Remember Jung's words, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you call it fate. Through his concept of individuation, he showed us that we have the potential to participate consciously in our own development. The journey of individuation isn't easy. Jung was very clear about that, but he believed it was the most meaningful journey we could undertake. In a world that often pushes us toward conformity and superficial success, maybe Jung's vision of becoming who we truly are is more relevant than ever. After all, as Jung discovered, the goal isn't to become perfect. The goal is to become real.